How should estate agency bosses do in-house training? Charlotte Jeffrey-Campbell from Able Agent, talk to me.
I think it's about knowing what you want your training to achieve and then monitoring that it's achieved it. Because it's very difficult. I've said this repeatedly, that training in our industry is fragmented. You've got lots of different
Well, I've
providers.
got my book from Countrywide when I was there in
Yeah,
'99.
yeah, absolutely. You've got your book, and then you've got some YouTube videos. So you train, you have YouTube content, you enable people to gain information. We've got Kerfuffle Campus with great content on there. You've got Able Agent. You've got brilliant trainers like Julian and Stephen and Tony, and then you've got trainers for big groups like Glynis. There are a good number of people out there. But as an independent agent, it's very hard to understand how to make the most of those things, because your content is brilliant, but how do I manage it? How do I get what I want out of it? So your training is brilliant, but where as a business owner do I help somebody look at Chris's YouTube channel and say, do this, do that? It's very hard without something that's curated and planned to actually decide what you want your training to achieve and to check it's done it. So this is what we did.
Is this the classic plan, do and review?
Yeah, basically. But I think it's about having the tools to enable you to do that.
What does that look like then?
So, well, I'm going to obviously do a bit of a pitch here, but from an able agent point of view, it is, right, what problem do I want to solve? Nellie's customer service, we've had a few complaints. Our sales are down. We need more stock. I'm worried about going to prison because my team have, made a few gaffes recently, and I'm a bit concerned. Whatever my problem is as an agent, I need to solve that. Now, it might be a different problem for each member of staff. So how do I manage that with all these different trainers? How do I make that?
Yeah, because the
I've got to
amount of
plan it.
bosses who say, I need training, but they don't actually take a
There's
step
no
back.
plan. Yeah. So the planning bit is, right, okay, so I've got an individual that needs help overcoming objections, which was me. I hated overcoming objections. I used to go into a show, I didn't like it. I talked my way out of it, but not necessarily effectively. But then I also remember at a point in my career being really interested in the law and understanding how it worked. So I wanted to know that. I've got property managers with different needs. I've got listers with different needs. So how do you monitor, how do you plan that and make sure that everyone gets what they want individually? That's a really hard thing to do. Because if you chuck them all on an away day, what happens is they have a brilliant away day. Everyone comes back buzzing and excited, probably hungover.
With or without the bosses?
I think this is what's really tricky. If the boss is there, the team don't talk unless there's a really strong, bond. And often the smaller groups it is better with the boss there because they've got such a tight bond. But imagine if you're a negotiator who's not feeling confident and you're a bit worried about whether you hit your targets or not, and your boss is listening to your every word. Where does the challenge come from in a business? So it's really difficult. But if the boss isn't there, how on earth do I know what's been trained? I could be sitting in the training room going, yada, 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 let's all just drink tea and have a giggle all day, because the business owner doesn't know any different. And that's not actually one of my training courses, but that's that, who knows? So you have to know what you want to do. So this is why people bring it in-house, because they have control and they can solve specific needs. But bringing it in-house is really time consuming, and you've got to do your research. So I've got to know your content, and I've got to decide what I want someone to watch. I've got to know Campus's content or Tony Morris's content, and then I've got to fill in the gaps by booking someone on a course. So the hardest part, I think, is actually the planning bit. And then the monitoring bit. How do you know they've actually done it? How do you know what they've got out of it? It's really difficult. So when we curated Able Agent, we've done it in modules and topics, so that if I've got a problem to solve to do with listing, I go to that topic. If I've got a law problem to solve, I go to that topic. And then I can say to each individual, what are you good at? What aren't you good at? So we have what we call a knowledge and skills analysis. And we can get each individual member of staff to fill that in and say, right, I'm 5-star at overcoming objections, but I'm 1-star at booking a market appraisal, or I'm 1-star at my data protection knowledge, whatever it may be. Then I can say, okay, well, you need to watch the data protection video if it was Able Agent, but it could also be your videos or Campus, whatever it is with this content that's available.
So basically talk to your team and get them to you
Yeah,
know what you think
self-select.
they're, so you need to ask yourself what, as a boss, what you think their
Yeah,
weaknesses are,
yeah,
or their gaps of knowledge.
yeah.
We don't use
Absolutely.
weaknesses.
No weaknesses. Yeah,
And what you're also saying is get your colleagues in the office to do exactly the same
yeah,
and see if they match.
absolutely. Because actually, what I'm sitting thinking as a negotiator, I might think I'm rubbish. I left a job. I think I told you this last time I was on the sofa. I left a job because I didn't think I was good enough. I worked for a radio station and it was hardcore, sales. It was knocking on doors. And I didn't think I was very good at it. And I left, and my boss then said, "Oh, we're so sorry you left." Well, I bumped into her. "You were so good." I hadn't got a clue because my confidence wasn't there. And I think we've talked about this before, and I see you talking about this confidence that you get as a, lack of as a lister, your fear of failure, it's massive. So actually being quietly able to go and solve those problems on your own is very, very valuable.
So we've looked at our colleagues, we've filled in that, we've worked out where we think their gaps are, that they need to do exactly the same.
Yeah.
See if they match, then do the review, then actually do the training.
Yeah.
But then this is where I think a lot of people go wrong. They don't review afterwards, do they?
Absolutely. And the whole point is there's two ways of doing it. So either you have a tool that reports that says Nellie's watched all these videos. Brilliant. Okay, whatever that tool is, the Able Agent does that. I could do a report that says every single person, every single course, have they done it? What marks did they get in their quiz? Very, very easy for me to interpret that as a boss. But it might well be that you do it in a slightly different way. So if you're not using an online platform like ours, you might then say, okay, team, next Friday, I want you all to come back to me with the 5 key points that you learn. And I want everybody to come back with their 5. And we're going to spend half an hour of our time reviewing your 5 key points. Now, Nellie might come back saying, "God, I didn't understand that the consumer protection regulations were so complicated." Somebody else might say, "Oh, I've learned this brilliant question," or "I watched this brilliant tip about how to present a video in front of a property," whatever it may be. Those 5 points then from the bottom up are things that you can then decide to implement. Now, if you say to everybody, right, there's hundreds of videos on Chris's channel, there's loads of videos on Able Agent, whatever you choose, or you've got a session booked in for an hour with Stephen Brown. When you come away from those things, what have you learned? And that's them coming to you, and then you can monitor it, and then you can set the next plan. So we say at Able Agent, give us an hour a month as a business owner, half an hour at the beginning to plan it, set your training, decide what you want, whether it's for a team or for the individuals. And at the end of it, you want half an hour to look at the reports or to get that feedback from the team to say, "I've done that half an hour and this is what we've learned." And then you move to the next section.
Sounds quite simple.
It is ridiculously simple with the right plan, because without planning, it's chaos. It's very difficult. And the number of agents I speak to, we've spent thousands on away days, and people have paid me to do lovely days in a hotel room. Well, that sounds inappropriate, doesn't it? Great days out, great training days. But even I, as the trainer, come away and think, but who's going to control that they implement that? Who's going to check that they've created their killer questions and that they've got a different process when they register somebody? Who's going to do a mystery shop to check that they're doing it? All of that is missing if it's not managed as a full program.
Thank you for your time today, Charlotte.
Welcome.